The Syrian Refugee Crisis by Caitlin King. The Syrian refugee crisis is the migration of millions of Syrian people due to political persecution and civil wars in their country. The Syrian refugee crisis is known as the worst humanitarian crisis in the world today. About 12 million Syrians have fled their homes because of conflict, and half of these people are children. About 5 million Syrians are refugees. How it all began. What began as once a peaceful uprising against Syria's president, Bashar al-Assad, about 6 years ago, became a full-scale civil war that has left more than 300,000 people dead, devastated the country, and drawn into global powers. The Arab Spring inspired the Syrian people to start a peaceful protest in the streets against the dictatorial regime. The government responded fiercely, torturing, killing, and shooting at the protesters. Many Syrians also complained about high unemployment, widespread corruption, and lack of political freedom. Syria is now divided into territory occupied by the regime, rebel fighters, and the Islamic extremists. International involvement. A key factor has been the intervention of regional and world powers, including Iran, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. Their military, financial, and political support for the government and opposition has contributed directly to the intensification and continuation of the fighting and turned Syria into a proxy battleground. An international coalition led by the United States has bombed targets of the Islamic State of Iraq since 2014. Syrians are fleeing because of three main factors: violence, collapsed infrastructure, and children's safety. The violence that has been going on during the civil war in Syria has killed more than 240,000 people. The economy is completely shattered. All healthcare and educational system buildings have been destroyed. There is no safe place to receive medical attention or get an education. Children's safety is also at an all-time low. These children who are still in Syria have witnessed extreme violence and brutality and are just living in unsuitable conditions. Children in Syria. Children among Syria are losing family members and friends to the extreme violence. They are suffering physical and psychological trauma from being in a war zone 24/7, hearing the bombs go off, hearing the guns shooting, panicking and being afraid 24/7, all hours of the day, and praying that their shelter is not going to be shelled or blown up. These children are also falling behind in school because of the collapsed infrastructure. Children affected by the Syrian refugee crisis are at risk of becoming ill, malnourished, abused, or exploited. Millions have been forced to quit school. Children are susceptible to malnutrition and diseases brought on by poor sanitation. The colder the weather increases the risk of diseases like pneumonia and respiratory infections, which also can't be helped due to the collapsed infrastructure. Many refugee children have to work to support their families. Labor can be dangerous and demeaning for such young age. Syrians fleeing conflict need all the basics to sustain, which are food, clothing, health assistance, shelter, and household items. They need reliable supplies such as clean water and sanitation facilities. These children need a safe environment so they can have a chance to go to school and play and live a normal life and not a life in fear. Refugees. About 5 million Syrians are refugees, and about 6 million are displaced within Syria. Most Syrian refugees remain in the Middle East, in Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. There is also about 10% of the refugees that have fled to Europe in search for better living conditions. How to help. Donating money is a great way to help these refugees. This money can go to providing food supplies, aid to the migrants, and shelter to the people who are in asylums waiting to find refugee spot to live and regain their life back. Also, by supporting the non-government organizations, this can help spread awareness and hopefully bring peace to these people.